Hello, Powerful Swagger here, and today we're going to be doing another Reddit read. This story is going to be coming off of Am I the A-hole? And the title is, Am I the A-hole for making seat swapper cry? So off of that, I'm going to say yes, because you made somebody cry. You're probably being a bit mean. It's totally possible that they are going through something, so making them cry was something easily done. But let's get into the story, see what's going on. So, I board the plane, settle into my economy seat. Woman approaches, asks me to change seats to 32B so her 9-year-old can sit with her. I ask how much cash she has to repay me for the money I spent on the seat. She says I'm cruel for leaving her son with anxiety sitting alone. I asked if she offered the person next to her son's seat in economy plus. She said she needed the leg room. I said clearly she cares more about her own comfort than her son's well-being. If she cared, she would have gave up her seat and moved to the back. She breaks out in a screaming wail filled with, "How could yous?" 10 minutes later, a smiling man sits down next to me grinning about his sweet upgrade. My partner says, I am the a-hole for questioning her parenting in public and making her cry. Am I? So yeah, I guess I'm gonna walk this back a bit. Not exactly, no. You have to pay extra for said seats. Yeah, she thought she could get away with paying extra for her seat and not having to pay for her kid's seat, and she'd be able to save money and not care. The person who did have to spend the money for that seat have to do that. It's extremely entitled of her to expect someone to give up their seat like that, especially again, since it's a seat that you do pay extra for to get that particular setting. So, no, to ask like, oh, are you going to pay for what I had to pay for this seat compared to what that seat was, that's not really unreasonable to like be accommodating in that sense. And the fact that she wasn't willing to be accommodating in that sense means they were kind of right, pointing out the hypocrisy of trying to get someone who's paid more for their seat to give up their seat instead of someone who didn't. So yeah, I think they're not the a-hole for standing their ground on something they paid for and pointing out a different solution the person can take instead of them getting hysterical and screaming. So yeah, I'd say not the a-hole. She sounds very entitled, and I'd say soft a-hole just because it has to deal with a child, but her entitlement and expectations of how this was going to go, that's her bad. All right, let's see what these comments say. First comment, not the a-hole. She's in the wrong for 1, not being able to plan and book ahead of time so her son isn't left alone. 2, not being able to put her comfort aside ahead of her precious son. And 3, thinking that anyone owes her anything for being a poor planner. Exactly. OP responded, when I booked my seat, hers was already taken, so she booked first. Didn't look like poor planning. Looked like she only wanted to pay for one premium seat and wanted to guilt me into giving up my seat, which that is what it seems like. But I would also call that poor planning. Somebody responded to that. Not the a-hole, obviously, and you should add this to your post. Somebody responded. This is a bunch of response in order. I'll say when I go to a new thread of comments. Her tears don't change the fact that she prioritized comfort over her son's needs. That's on her. That it is. Sometimes the selfishness of certain people just amaze me. Sigh. Are you sure the son had anxiety too, or that was made up? Not that it matters much. Well, she likely lies to him too if this was the way she lives her life. So wouldn't be surprised if he has an insecurity thing going on. But yeah, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, if my parent had breakdowns in public over minor inconvenience, I'd probably develop anxiety too. It would make adult life seem way harder and more emotionally draining than it actually is. Adult kid of parents who had pretty frequent public meltdowns here? Yes. Last response. Absolutely believe that her son has anxiety. Imagine having a mom that acts like that. Next comment. This is not on the same thread. It's a new thread of comments. That is what the tears were for. Crocodile tears. Somebody responded. Frustration tears because her clever plan failed. Somebody responded to that. When I was a cop and someone started crying to try and get out of a ticket that I probably wasn't going to write in the first place until they turned on the waterworks, my philosophy was tears and ticket both start with a T. I guess they belong together. Well, just because you're a dick. Before you roast me, we would definitely tell the difference between legitimate anxiety and the hope he buys this cry. Well, I mean, you can say that, but that doesn't mean that's always the case. Somebody responded to that. My wife got nicked 35 kph, kilometers per hour, over the limit on the highway. She cried and he let her go. That's a big ticket in Australia and 5 kilometers short of a court appearance for dangerous driving. Like me, she does have a 20+ year flawless driving record, but still, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have let me go. Again, you also can't assume that. You don't know the cop that let her go. Somebody responded to that. Very doubtful, says my magic 8-ball. This is a long one. I got pulled over a few months ago for the first time in like 8 years, and I'm only 31. I'm a good good driver in adulthood, I promise, lol. For speeding in a school zone. To add context, it was the main road and the school was off of the side road, but the main road was still required to slow down from 45 to 35. I don't have an excuse. I was driving my dog to the vet and just zoned into what I was doing and didn't notice. Well, you didn't zone into what you were doing because what you were doing was driving. And I had my license on me because I left in a hurry and forgot my wallet. I almost turned back, but I needed to get him there and I knew I could pay with my phone. The cop let me go with nothing, just a laugh and a don't do it again. I literally am like, are you sure, lol? Speeding in a technical school zone, no license, no insurance card. It was in my wallet. I looked it up on my phone though. He did say he looked up my info though, so he could identify me and verify everything. I didn't cry, although I might have played up the dumb act a bit. Thanks, man. A ticket would have sucked. I'm a good driver and responsible person, just caught me on a bad day. The person who she directly responded to her, quoted, driving my dog to the vet and just zoned into what I was doing and didn't notice. Most cops are reasonable. We know it happens. Being honest is valuable. Cute dogs usually help too. For my department, a warning was only 5 to 10 minutes of paperwork after the stop. A ticket was at least double or more. That 10 to 15 minute traffic stop where I wrote a ticket could cost me close to an hour of my day. I didn't write tickets lightly. Looks like there's only 2 more on this particular comment thread of responses. Next one. I was driving myself to the ER, rural road around 10 p.m. So next to no other traffic around, and got pulled over for going 20 kilometers over the speed limit. I was extremely sick, had a bad fever, lost my voice, and difficulty breathing. Turned out I had pneumonia. So I basically just wheezed at the cop. I also looked like death, so she got the point of where I was going, and I guess she didn't have any sympathy cards left because she still gave me a ticket and told me that not feeling well was no reason for speeding. Technically, she's right, but it sounds like you were in the kind of position to where you shouldn't have been driving yourself if you're having a hard time breathing. You get somebody else to drive. All right, last one. I agree that being reasonable/honest is valuable. Respectful also helps a lot. Recently, a friend of mine lost a brother who'd I'd known for over 30 years. Very suddenly and unexpectedly, the funeral was being held near his mom's house, a 2-hour drive from where I live. I was on my way to the funeral and lost in my own thoughts when I was pulled over. I was 100% wrong, doing about 60 in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. Jesus. Give me a ticket would be 100% justified. Long story shorter, I explained to the cop where I was going and why I was speeding. He expressed sincere sympathy for the loss and then in turn reminded me how dangerous speeding is, especially in the residential area where I was, that it's very important that I obeyed posted limits. Reasonable. And he then sent me on my way asking that I slow down, drive safely, and that he never see me again. I'm in my 50s, and sadly, that was the first time I dealt with a cop who wasn't a power-hungry asshole. It was incredibly refreshing. Yeah, a lot of them are. I haven't had great experiences with cops in most situations like that. Just like walking by a cop in like Detroit or something. No bad experiences, but I'm also, a white guy, so everybody agrees that it really got into like tickets for some reason, but everybody agrees he's not the a-hole. He paid for a particular seat and she was just hoping to take advantage of that. So yeah, she's the a-hole, he's not. Those are my thoughts on it. Comment down below. Let me know what you think about it. We can have a conversation. I appreciate you clicking on this video. I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, try to be kind out there.